welcome here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of the Heritage Hill Studios. Proud to be here with you. Heritage Hill coming to you on 3149 Sweet Road in Pompey, New York, in the country of upstate New York. And of course, in the city right by the airport, you have Heritage Hill North on 628 South Main Street in North Syracuse, New York at Sweetheart Corner. This is our Spotlight Special with the Tulsa Golden Hurricane head football coach Kevin Wilson heading into the 2024-25 season. Coach, happy to have you here and happy to put a spotlight on Oklahoma. How are you?
Doing well. Good to be with you. Do we call you DT or did I go Dan? DT's going.
You could say DT, you could say Dan. A lot of people say DT now, but whatever you're more comfortable with, Coach.
That's the show. Let's rock and roll.
All right. Sounds good to me. So looking at this, I mean, obviously your experience has brought you to different places, and you've had the opportunity, going back to the beginning of your career in 1984 to 86, to be in the ACC with North Carolina as a grad assistant. We've seen you in the MAC with Miami of Ohio. We've seen you with multiple stints inside of the Big Ten as well as the Big 12, and now in the American Athletic Conference. Because you've had such an opportunity to be in different pieces of Division I FBS football and Division I-A, you have, to me, a good viewfinder that we can look through on what college football is at the FBS level. How would you describe it? Because we hear power, we hear group of. You've been in a bunch of different elements of this. So what can you say to what college football is looking through your spectrum?
Yeah, well, we have under the NCAA model now, the quote unquote, FBS 133-ish or 2 or whatever the magic number is right now, 34, whatever, of those schools. But there's a little bit of commitment level. And with that being said, you got into what was being called the Power 5 or the bigger conferences. They call it the Power 4 plus the 2 or whatever. And years ago, we used to always have Notre Dame on the outside or BYU on the outside when they weren't in conferences, as those things went down. But what you really got is just a differential in the TV allotment that the conferences are now getting, starting probably years ago with the Big Ten Network, what became in time, the personal Longhorn Network, and the Pac-12, ACC. Everybody's kind of came along with that, and all the TV sharing. It's now basketball, and the basketball tournament for years I think drove the financial piece of a lot of places. Now it's the football piece, and when you got teams that command and demand a high TV value, they've really spiked the income coming into their schools. So it's created maybe a little imbalance in that what is considered FBS level of that upper tier that's just bringing in so much more money, so much more for staffing, so much more for facilities. And those of us that, have the full allotment and are playing by the same rules, but we're basically playing at a different poker table, and the limit might be a little bit different if you're old days walking up in the strip, which table are you playing at today for blackjack? Limited table or the $5 table? So it's a little bit like that. We're all playing blackjack, but there's kind of like a different table that you're pulling up to when you're playing the game.
And I like that analogy, like you said. Everybody's playing blackjack, but sitting at tables with different limits, different buy-ins to get into the game. How do we, in today's model, if that be true, which it very much is, what you just described so eloquently, how do we have fairness? How do we, in the world of NIL and the transfer portal and TV deals and all of this, if we're all playing the same game, how do we create a fair model? And kind of going off of that, do you think the expansion to 12 for the college football playoff 5+7 rule is a fair model?
Yeah, I think the playoff 5+7 just in some ways creates a lot more revenue for those majority, which are going to be the bigger schools, probably even creating a greater gap of those that are fortunate and blessed to be at those places where they can demand that kind of revenue. I don't know if it's ever been fair. We all kind of play by rules, but it's always been from years ago. I mean, you look at the historic basketball programs; they still are. You look at the historic football programs; they still are. So there's always been a little different. Some teams always had advantages just because of the tradition, the fan base, the resources, the network. They were going to win, always have, always will. So I don't know if there's really a quote fair way to get it right now. I mean, you want to make it an NFL model. I think I heard Joe Castiglione say this at the SEC meeting the other day, which I thought was very well put when he said there's there's some elements of professionalism in college sports, but we're not a professional team. We can't cut guys in the middle of the season. We have to go to class. So all of a sudden, if a guy's hurt, you put a guy on injured reserve. If you reduce the scholarships and if you, it is a revenue generating fund, and the players should be compensated for that. I think in time, maybe we get back to where NIL started based on your name and image, you would get money, but then the collectives just started collecting money. And I heard another guy, I think it was, I went blank here. Who's my UCLA coach? It's on the radio. Rick Neuheisel. Rick said, it's like the head coach now has to recruit alumni to get money.
Yeah.
To now negotiate with players. You don't recruit players, you're recruiting alumni to help me go negotiate with guys. So, there's going to be a money piece. It'd be nice if you want it to be fair. If we're saying the kids get 22% of the revenue, is it the revenue per school? Because now you're going to have where larger schools are creating more revenue. That means they're going to have a bigger budget. Or is it like a cap like the NFL? Hey, here's our $20 million a year, $15 million a year at the big level, 25, 30 million, whatever that magic number is, and we're allocating that out to our players. I think those of us in that lower mid-level of the competition and the funds we have, you want to make it where your best players aren't coming up to be one-year free agents and getting, you bring a kid in, you develop as an O-lineman, a receiver, a linebacker, and after 2 or 3 years, now he goes to the SEC or the Big 12, and he's being a nice backup player for 1 year, making a little NIL money. So it's going to be hard to make it fair. We got some things to go over. Looks like with the House settlement, there's going to be starting definitely some revenue that hopefully comes from the schools to the players. And then we can go back and the kids on their own can get their own NIL deal outside of the school. And I'm a great player last year, like Caleb Williams. I can go get something on the side because I'm a heck of a player. I'm a great college basketball player. I can go get something on the side. But I think we got to get somewhere where we're compensating the kids and there's some degree of equity, and there's also going to be equity at which poker table you're playing at.
Yeah, and I mean, you mentioned it. I mean, the NIL, obviously the NCAA making money hand over fist as a non-for-profit billion-dollar corporation, which is kind of sounds like a lot of juxtaposition there that doesn't make a lot of sense. But being a non-for-profit, making billions of dollars, all because of the kids get nothing. Now the kids are getting something, but with collectives, with individual NIL deals, and now with the House settlement and the 22%, can any of this make sense? And you as a head coach, knowing that, I mean, and I agree with you that there should be money going to the players, but knowing that there's so many different avenues now, it's hard to keep control of and understanding of. A lot of things that were illegal are legal now. You can boosters are now welcomed in to give money and to get inside of a collective where before they couldn't hand money to any of these student athletes, couldn't even buy them a sandwich. So as a head coach of a program in today's collegiate football climate, how do you feel as a leader and as a coach? Can you coach normally? Are you dealing with all these other things? Are there questions coming to you that you wish weren't coming to you? Where are you at as far as that goes?
We're kind of in a spot where, based on what we have financially, we're not dealing with a lot of, we're getting players based on we got enough money to get you. We're trying to make sure that we're compensating our players for doing well academically, and we award our guys Austin funds based on performance. And we've maxed that out. And in the last year, we've had 3 summer sessions and 2 fall semesters over 3.0, the best academics ever. So, I'm in a place where it's almost, to me, I'm a little bit old school right now, where we're not like, here's 50, 100, 200,000 bucks. Let's go get this player. But I do think at our level, we need to have some money where we're rewarding the kids or awarding them, however you want to say that, for doing well in school, and then maybe having enough to retain guys. It's still, to me, I still think it's a developmental game. And I think we're here to get an education. And I'm kind of trying to work our guys like I did at Oklahoma years ago or at Ohio State with guys. Hey, at the end of your 3rd year, are you good enough to go pro? Well, I'm telling a lot of our players here, in 1 year, you might could get a better deal at a bigger school, but I don't know if that's your max value. And if you come out too early, like when the guy would come out as a low-level draft pick because he got bad advice and he started low, he maybe never made up that money. So I'm just trying to convince our guys, that we're a developmental program that's buying to the education piece. We're doing the best ever. We just had the best recruiting class in the history of the school, and the second best in quote unquote G5. And so we're kind of doing it the old fashioned way. So I kind of feel like, I'm kind of like Groundhog Day stuck in a little rut down here. And I kind of feel like, I'm back at Miami, Ohio, and let's put your hand behind the line and sprint through the line. Let's have a good day and let's get better. And I think we're developing kids because again, we did get in this for the education, develop the kids as a player, develop it as a man. And I'm working hard to recruit kids that want to buy that, telling them also, just like at Ohio State, if we can go first round, Oklahoma, first round, let's go. If we can't go, let's get better. And I'm trying to sell that with our players as we develop them here. And hopefully, at least they're maximizing what Tulsa can give them academically, development-wise as a player, that if they do move on, they're moving on at their highest value. If you move on low value and you go to a big school as a backup player, you're never going to make anything. You might have made a little, but that's really in the big picture, a little bit of chump change by the time it's taxed. It's not life-changing money. And to me, we're here to change lives. So DT, I'm kind of selling that, and I'm tricking right now. It's working pretty good. So we're trying to hang in there,
Well, yeah, and you said, essentially, it sounds like you're trying to get them away from being short-sighted and to see the long-term opportunities of getting an education, the long-term opportunities of developing in a program, as opposed to the short-term opportunity of I go to Tulsa and then I transfer somewhere else and I make some NIL money, maybe a little bit more. It sounds like you're saying to them, yeah, you can leave us and make some more money somewhere else, and maybe be a backup,
but is it max money? Is it
right.
it the max money, max opportunity?
Yeah, and so essentially, I think what you're saying to them is, yeah, you can leave us and you can make something in the NIL, or you can stay here, get an education, develop, and go to the NFL and make more money over time, or get an education and even if you don't play in the NFL, make more money over time. It sounds like your relationship-based, developmental-based system of I'm trying to give you monumental, life-changing money and opportunity, as opposed to a very short-sighted, hey, that looks good right now on a check.
Correct. And to me, it's an education part of that. And you don't get mad if somebody wants it. It's available. They have the right to do it. But I tell a lot of recruits, I go, look in your area, the recruits that jump from high school to high school to high school. Do those guys really pan out? The college kid that goes from college to college to college. I use Joe Burrow all the time because I had a chance to be with Joe, who was at Ohio State for 3+ years, 3.5 years. It was in a dogfight. JT Barrett was our guy. And then Joe had an injury where he cracked his throwing hand on Nick Bosa's helmet one day in practice on his own read keep. And him and Dwayne got into a battle. And Dwayne, we ended up, at the end of 3 years getting a job. But Joe Burrow had 3 years of Mickey Marotti in the weight room. He had 3 years of Chase Young and Nick Bosa and all these guys chasing him around. He was throwing the ball to Terry McLaurin and Paris Campbell and Johnny Dixon and KJ Hill. And he had these great DBs he was going against. And even though at the time, maybe Dwayne we thought was a little bit more accurate, Joe did have success leading, as did Justin Fields when he left. There are guys that have success, but I think you got to give yourself a chance to max out where you're going when you go. And if you're looking for the quick fix, I just don't know if that's best. I'm not going to get mad if a guy wants it. To me, I know kids are going to be talked to and opportunities going to. We just, you're constantly just trying to advise them, working hard, being the best kid they can, maximizing what they got. And then with that, some guys are going to get bad advice, and maybe they take it. Maybe some guys get good advice and should be somewhere else. We got guys sometimes that don't pan out. Maybe they should be somewhere else. Sometimes you get a guy that's killing it, like in the old school, the third-year player killing it. He's ready to go to the NFL. To me, if I got players that nobody wants, we stink. So we want players that other schools want. We want that. And then we want to work hard to keep the guys the best we can. But I don't think we're going to buy them financially. We got to buy them with the process and then give them the opportunity to do what they feel is best. And then respect whatever they do. And don't wish them ill will. Respect what they do and keep rocking and rolling with it.
Kevin Wilson, head coach of the Tulsa Golden Hurricane, here heading into the 2024-25 season on this Wake Up Call special inside of the Heritage Hill Studios. Kevin, for you just said we're coming off our best recruiting class ever. How did it happen? What were the pillars of making that happen?
Well, in the world of 25 scholarships per se, what used to be 25, typically a school would sign 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, all high school guys, maybe a JC player or two. Then when the transfer came around, it became a couple transfers. Now it's becoming about 50-50 to have high school, have transfer guys at a lot of schools. That created a market for us where we're sitting here in Oklahoma, which our state has great football and great population in Tulsa. And of course, the best players are going to go to some of the national best programs in college football. But not only do we have good football here across the state, the big schools and small schools, but we're 4 hours to Dallas. We signed 11 of the top 100 by the Dallas Morning News. I think we signed 17 kids out of Texas, I think 7 out of Oklahoma. And we basically just hit the high school market. I think we signed 29 kids, signed a number of kids that at one point in time were committed to Minnesota and Indiana and Oregon, Nebraska, Texas Tech, Arizona State. We had guys that were committed that maybe got dropped. So to me, we signed what was old school, a 2002, 2005 mid-level Big 12 class is what we signed. Now, is our class better than the Big 12 classes? No, because they took half portal guys that were starters in college football. But the ranking of the high school kid was better. So we're going to start with a better high school piece. We're going to have to play some young kids, which I hope will help us keep those young kids for 2 and 3 years to develop.
Yeah.
And so we're kind of, now we did bring in 10 transfer guys, 3 linebackers that we really like, one from Kansas, Ark State, one from TCU, one from Southern Cal. Brought in D lineman from Indiana, a couple O linemen, 2 receivers, one from UTEP, one from Purdue. And we got a few transfer guys, but we kind of built it with the high school recruiting, and it's a good-looking class. We're busting their tail with summer workouts, but we're going to have to play some young guys. We're going to have to go through the growing pains, but I think that's the best way for us to build our program because of the talent base of Oklahoma, East Texas, Dallas, Houston, and then not having the money to go buy 20, 25 upper-end transfer guys.
Yeah, so, I mean, like you said, putting this together, you're coming off your first season as the head coach at Tulsa, a record of 4-8. Where does the leadership lie when we look at offense, defense, and special teams? And I know some of this is going to have to work itself out in fall camp, but as we step into the fall, like you said, you're pushing these guys hard in the summer. Who is kind of showing you that they can be an extension of you as a head coach on the field?
I think we got a couple good quarterbacks with Kirk Francis that finished. Cardell Williams started the year in a transfer. So I like the 3 guys transfer. Cooper Legod that started 15 games at Utah State. Kirk finished the year, last 4 games, threw for 295. I think he threw 345 against Tulane, a game that we got down to a 2-point game and couldn't get over the hump. So I think we showed some promise at quarterback, which is nice. Cam Benjamin, our leading receiver, 6-year player, already got an NBA team captain, is back. Anthony Watkins, an all-conference running back, one of the best in the league, is now practicing and developing like an upper-level player. So I think our skilled players are tight in position. Ethan Hall, Luke McGarry, 2 very grown men. Those transfer linebackers I was talking about, Gavin Potter, Zach Marcaselli, Chris Thompson, those 3 linebackers. Miles Jackson is going to be probably a team captain, the outside linebacker, Dean from Indiana. Malachi Jones, 6-year guy back. So we got some 6 years, and I think we hit on about 5 transfer guys that I'm not giving them the voice to come to media day next week because they just got here. But by the second week of preseason, they're going to be our leaders. And I like some of the vets we got. And then I love the talent of our young guys. They're just wet behind the ears and trying to figure out how not to play high school football. But I love the young guy talent. And I think we've got some 6-year vets that are quality kids. Now it's year 2. And we've now trained hard enough. We had a transition of strength coaches. We've trained hard enough, DT. We're going to be able to really practice at a tempo and a consistency level that last year we just weren't men enough to do just yet. Not putting our guys down. We just were not far enough down the road to have the volume of strength, toughness, to just be a consistent, really good practice player. And I'm excited as we come up with what's been, I think, a phenomenal spring summer sessions. I'm excited to see as we start practice what level of practice we could be at, because I think we have a chance to be an improved football team. I mean, I'm really love the way they've worked, love our academic piece, love the recruiting. We've done everything except win a couple daggum games, and we need to flip that switch a little. And I think we're doing enough good things. I think we got a chance. We need to play and play well, but I think we got a chance.
Couple pieces here as we finish up our conversation and our spotlight on the Tulsa Golden Hurricane with head football coach Kevin Wilson on Wake Up Call inside of the Heritage Hill Studios. A two-parter here for you. There were 7 seasons, 7 years, I should say, in between you being a head coach at Indiana and then now being a head coach at Tulsa when you came in at 2023. What can you say about the difference within that 7-year gap? You didn't leave college football. You were still on staffs and whatnot, but being a head coach in 2016 and being a head coach in 2023, just the difference you saw. And then second part, leadership of the American Athletic, your thoughts on Mike Oresco and the new leadership in Tim Pernetti.
Yeah, the game's changed a little bit with the recruiting, the NIL, the transfer thing. So that's different than 2016. I think coming out of Indiana, that's a program that historically has struggled. I think we had done a really good job going to back-to-back bowls, beating our rival Purdue 4 times in a row, getting a victory over Penn State, Michigan State, some top 20 wins. We were, doing some things that are hard to do there. But in doing so there, Indiana's a great school, great place, great people, but you're changing a mindset and a culture. And in doing so, sometimes you're upsetting some people. Even though you're not trying to, you are. And I think from seeing that now on the backside here, as we're trying to change some culture, Tulsa does have 30-some conference championships. I'm back in the old Missouri Valley and all that deal. And we've had some success here. It is a smaller school. It is a great school with a lot of great people. And as you're trying to, quote, figure out how you want to do things your way, maybe trying to make sure you're connecting with a lot more people throughout campus, that there's just a better vibe and you're not alienating some folks. So in some ways, that's a big piece for me. I think just being around Ohio State too, we did a great job of working with Coach Stoops. Grew up with Randy Walker, 2 phenomenal coaches, but being around Urban and his style, and because you always get a few things from each person. And there were just some things that Urban and that Ryan continued doing, whether it be our weekly meetings where everyone that touches the player sits down and we go through the team real quick. So academics, medical, video, equipment, sports nutrition, sports psych, everyone's hearing this kid's struggling, this kid's doing great, this kid's got a problem, this kid's got an injury, and just getting all your support people on the same stage. There was just some leadership things taking from the opportunity of being with Urban. As great as Randy Walker was for me, my mentor of all mentors, working with Bob and our success, and what a quality. I'm getting ready to play some golf with Coach Stoops today. and so I get a chance to see him as we wrap up our summer here. So a lot of love and respect for those 2 guys. And then to top that off, with Urban's drive and uniqueness and the way he organized and did some things. I'm not bringing that program here. I'm not bringing them here. You get a few things like that. So the game changed a little bit. I think I see some things where we were doing some things right at Indiana, but maybe not connecting right, how to connect better and get everybody on the same page. And like I say, except for being short on a game or 2, we've done a great job, I think, just with the vibe, our where we're at in building our program, not just here within our building, but around campus and the vibe that the campus has. And I think the respect that they're gaining for our kids. Leadership, sorry to see Mike go, great job for TV, and bringing in Tim with his background and his stuff from IMG and his college background with Rutgers and stuff. And I think he's going to be I think they're both very, very competitive. I think they both take a lot of pride. And I think, like I was talking about those poker tables, I think both Mike and Tim are fighting their butts off to keep us at the right table and make sure they're supporting the schools, but the schools understand the commitment that they need to bring. I was very impressed last year at the coaches' meetings, the leadership of the conference, but the leadership of our head football coaches. There's some strong head football coaches and great leaders in our conference. So I think our conference is in a great shape to stay strong. We'll be in transition the next few years, all of us. But I think we're in a great place to build and keep this brand of the American Conference very, very strong. Sorry to see Mike go, but appreciate his work. A lot of thanks, and excited to work with Tim and what he's going to bring to not just Tulsa, but to the conference in general. He'll do a great job.
Final piece here, Coach. You don't get to ask questions really ever as a head coach, so I'm going to let you do that in rapid fire. You could put me on the hot seat. It could be music, movie, TV related. It can be food related. It could be pastimes, travel, or football, whatever you want. You can ask me any question in the world. What do you got?
So I could go a lot there because I love the music side. Like if you got your pregame rap, your pregame, like, are you old school and you're rocking with the New York? I mean, where are you at with your pregame what's your playlist? The food world. You're in one of the great food states of ever. So, like for example, at our best restaurant down here, like you go into the Italian place, everybody wants to go to the fancy meals, but my guy's best meal is spaghetti and meatball. It's hard to beat. But if you hit me on the TV stuff, I'm not a huge TV guy, but from COVID, I got into what was your best Netflix or Paramount or whatever you went to. What was your go-to best series that you watched that you felt like, because I got a couple I got into pretty strong. So what was your best when you started, especially with the way COVID whacked us? Yeah. What's your favorite go-to top Netflix or any other network or app that you're using there?
So the cool thing is we do an entertainment show called Superpowered Pop and interview actors and actresses and writers and illustrators. But I had somehow found a way, even though going to comic conventions and, broadcasting and covering New York Comic Con, I somehow stayed away from Game of Thrones. So I didn't know anything other than Jon Snow or whatever it was, winter is coming, Jon Snow must die or something like that. So I really didn't know anything except for like those words. And so at the beginning of COVID, I spent 3 months watching Game of Thrones and got to experience that in a very innocent way because I didn't really know anything. So that was cool. I would say I love Ted Lasso on Apple TV, and I like watching The Boys, which is a different take on superhero stuff. So The Boys on Amazon Prime has been good too. And just trying to find some of those like off the beaten path movies. But I do like to hone in on a series, and I like a series to make me laugh. I like it to challenge me. I think Ted Lasso has a lot to do with kind of my personality of God, faith, bringing people together, common goal, morals and values, and at the same time having fun like a kid and making people laugh. I think that brought it all together.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So sometimes I would get sad when it'd be the last episode. When you get into one, and you got a couple 3 months of watching 2, 3, 4 times a week, catching 45-minute segment of the show. When the last one dropped, it's like, man, I guess that's the last episode of MASH. That's the last. So I felt that way on stuff. And then when it takes you forever to find the next one, like right now, I can't find one I like. Right now, it's bumming me out. I can't find one I want to get hooked on. So.
Well, I got to ask you this, Coach. What was your go-to binge watch?
Years ago when I was at OU, we always watched Deadwood and Sopranos back to back on Sunday night. That was old school. There was one called Hell on Wheels. It was awesome. It was about the building the train tracks across the country. That was cool. I got into what's the guy? Blank on the guy's name. The Blacklist. I got into the Blacklist. I thought that was a pretty good one right there.
Your last question for me. What do you got?
Italian best dish.
Well, I come from an Italian Hispanic family. I'm going to say my grandmother, my G-Mama's stuffed shells. She passed away at almost 101, but her stuffed shells and her meatballs, second to none, and her sweet potatoes, which I think I would like to hope I've done an okay job trying to keep those alive for her. But her stuffed shells, I don't order stuffed shells ever in a restaurant. I don't get them outside of that. I mean, it's one of the things, and now that I'm thinking about it, having her stuffed shells, I will never order them at a restaurant because I don't think anybody can match her.
That's awesome.
And my last question for you, Coach, I'm going to stick with food here. If you had one meal for the rest of your life, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, it could only be one thing you'd never get sick of from here to forever. What's that one thing that you can eat all day, every day, and never get sick of?
Spaghetti meatballs.
Simple as that.
Yep.
From home, or is there a restaurant?
A little bit of both. I mean, and we got a couple restaurants in town, but my wife does go. My wife is a vegan eater, so she's got a couple. And you get the vegan stuff now. You got some hot and you got some cold now. And she's got a couple times. There's a couple sauces she can put together. She does a great chili as well. It's pretty good. But I'd stay along having lived in, like, for example, in Ohio State every Monday, like it was at Miami, Ohio, every Monday, it was Skyline Chili during the season. That was standard issue. Me and Sean Payton started doing that, Aaron Cromer, in 1995. And if there's a Skyline Chili across the street here in Tulsa, we got a thing called the Coney Islander. Every Monday, it's 2 cheese conies, mustard, onion, and sweet tea. That's what we do.
I love that. Kevin Wilson here, Tulsa Golden Hurricane. Pay attention to them in the 2024-25 season and beyond. Coach, I appreciate you as always from the Heritage Hill Studios. This is Wake Up Call, and it's been an honor to talk with you. And obviously, I'll be seeing you soon.
Appreciate you. All the best. Thank you.
Thank you, you too.